I want to be more okay with disappointing people. Not because I want to be a disappointment, but because I don't want to be so attached to not disappointing people that I people please. Hello, everyone. My name is Naya, and welcome to another season 7 episode of Let Me Just Say This. I hope you guys are doing so good. If you are new here, hello, welcome to the vibe, welcome to the tribe. Go ahead and subscribe because you are going to love it here. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, as you should, hey, you see me? I see you. You look good, girl. Me too. I really hope this past week has been treating you guys well. Today, we are getting into a very personal topic. We're going to get a little bit deep today, a little bit touchy today. We're talking about people pleasing because I have come to the realization that I am a people pleaser. Not was, girl, am. I am a people pleaser, and I found that this has shown up in all of my relationships, but it shows up the loudest and, most consistently and most painfully in my romantic relationships. And I want to dive into that today because I have some very distinct thoughts on people pleasing from the perspective of someone who would not have considered herself a people pleaser, but now does, and how that has impacted me and my relationships. So we're going to get into that today. You already know we have to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Black Girl Vitamins and NordVPN. If you want to support the podcast, you can use our code for Black Girl Vitamins, LMJST15, and save 15% on your order. That'll be in the description. And if you get your NordVPN membership through my link, baby, you will support the podcast. You will be supporting me. And they have a deal going on right now. So go ahead and check that out. And you already know, before we get started, go ahead and grab your mug and fill it up with whatever you like. But today, you already know I'm drinking mushroom coffee. Get your mug, get your tea, get your drink, come back and let's kiki. I want to start out by defining people pleasing. For those of you guys who don't know but are familiar with the concept, people pleasing is a behavioral pattern where individuals consistently prioritize others' needs over their own, driven by a deep desire for approval, fear of rejection, or fear of conflict. It often leads to self-neglect, exhaustion, low self-worth, and resentment. While well-intentioned, this habit can erode personal identity and lead to unhealthy, imbalanced relationships. Honestly, that was kind of heavy because even myself, reading this definition for the first time, I recognize these behaviors in myself and how I've navigated my romantic relationships specifically. I don't necessarily think that people pleasing shows up as much in my friendships or my familiar relationships, but it still shows up nonetheless, especially going back to my childhood. And I really had to ask myself, I wasn't born this way. Like, I've developed these behaviors for a specific reason. So what does this actually stem from? And the truth is that it does come from childhood trauma. It does come from fears of abandonment and feeling like I had to perform for approval and feeling like, I need to be a good girl because if I'm not, then mommy and daddy are going to feel some type of way. Those are the type of things that stick with you through your adulthood. And we don't even recognize it sometimes. We don't even recognize that, how I'm navigating my adult relationships goes back to how I navigated trauma and stress when I was a kid, when I was a child. And it is a tough pill to swallow to realize that, oh yeah, girl, sorry, it's the trauma. Like, it's literally the childhood trauma every time. I don't really speak on it a lot, but I grew up in a very toxic, chaotic environment. And of course, as a child, I didn't know that all of these things were being internalized and would manifest in different ways as I got older and as I stepped into different types of relationships or even navigated my relationship with my parents now. But I grew up in an environment where I didn't necessarily have my needs met. And I had to learn how to get them met, either by meeting them myself or doing things that what I thought would make people meet those needs for me. And of course, this also involves seeking validation. But the specific thing with people pleasing, that part about putting someone else's desires and wants and needs over your own because you want them to love you. You want them to care about you. You want to, get approval from them, and you don't want them to reject you. You don't want them to leave you. You don't want them to hurt you. Like, those are the motivating factors behind the people pleasing, which is why I sincerely believe that people pleasing is a fault. I think it is a fault. I think it can be manipulative at times. And I think that, it leads to a lot of our downfalls in our relationships because we're so focused on, if I do this, then they won't do that. If I am a good child and I get good grades, then my mom will love me more and my mom will stop abandoning me. If I do this, then my dad won't leave. If I do this, then that man won't leave. So I'm going to do everything I can to give them everything that they need. And I'm going to hope and I'm going to pray and I'm going to basically default to the mindset that I'm giving everything that you want. So you have to give me back what I want, right? And you can't let me down and you can't disappoint me and you can't hurt me. I'm giving you everything. I'm catering to you, even at my own detriment. I've always been what I thought was selfless, what I thought was just nurturing, what I thought was just extremely caring and understanding. And it can be all of those things, but at the same time, it is people pleasing. Because ultimately, my desire to do these things doesn't just stem from my innate nature, but it also stems from this trauma that I have. It also stems from just wanting people to love me, wanting to be loved, wanting reciprocity, and even more so, trying to save myself from pain and hurt. The reality is, people pleasing is a trauma response. Most people just think of fight or flight, but there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawning is people pleasing. Fawning is when there's a threat in front of you. It can be emotional, relational, physical even, and the response is to appease. The response is to be more agreeable so that you can neutralize that threat. That is what people pleasing is. And how that threat shows up with people pleasing, it's often, rejection or the withdrawal of love or someone being upset with us. Those are the threats. And in order to neutralize that, we appease. And over time, it becomes second nature. Over time, you don't have to think about it. You preemptively people please because the expectation is that threat will always arise. The expectation is if I preemptively do this, then the threat will go away, right? If I preemptively do this, then they won't withdraw love from me. Then they won't be upset with me. Then they won't leave me, which is a fallacy, babe. It's a trauma response, honey. And one of the greater, more detrimental things about people pleasing is that it often results in you burying yourself, in you shrinking yourself. And I have found myself burying parts of me, shrinking parts of me, adjusting parts of me, even having like anxiety and fear of self-expression, of pushback, of conflict, because I think to myself, this is going to be the determining factor that is going to make this person leave me or make this person stop wanting me or loving me. And so I'm not going to put myself in this position, or I'm going to try to mold myself or conform myself or change myself so that way I can prevent that. And it's actually really crazy because I had a conversation with my first love, the first man I was with for 4 years. I was from 19 to 23, I was with him. And I remember saying to him that I do all of this stuff for you. I take care of everything. And I hope and I pray that you'll just pay me back on the back end. If I love you now and I give you what you need and what you want and what you desire now, then you'll love me later and you won't hurt me and you won't betray me. And the reality is that you don't get to control how other people treat you. You don't. And the outcome of people pleasing is very rarely what we want. Being a people pleaser doesn't guarantee that people are going to treat you right. It doesn't guarantee that they're not going to leave you. It doesn't guarantee that they're not going to hurt you. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to do any of that. If anything, it sets you up to be in a position where someone can take greater advantage of you. Because you are so willing to put someone else's needs and desires over your own, it puts you in a position to where another person can really take as much as they can get from you until you realize you have nothing more to give. And I've been there before. I've been there multiple times, because this is not just something that you picked up in a specific relationship. This is something, like I said, that stems from my childhood. This is a behavior in me that I want to work on. I am working on it because I know that I have to, because I know that for me to have a healthy relationship, I can't be a people pleaser, and I can't be with someone who is okay with me being a people pleaser because it results in them getting what they need and what they want out of the situation. And I want to say this very loud and clear for the people who have childhood trauma that resulted in them becoming a people pleaser because that's what they needed to do to survive at that time. No, you were not weak. You were adapting. You adapted to a toxic, chaotic, unfulfilling environment. You did not get your needs fulfilled, so you did what you needed to do to find a solution to that. And that's not weakness, and that's not a bad thing, but I absolutely believe that it is something that we have to learn to grow out of. You have to learn to grow out of that. The tools that we develop to survive when we grow up in a toxic, chaotic environment are tools that need to be retired, baby. Like, you can't carry them into your adulthood and keep using them, especially once you've exited that environment. Once you're out of that environment, you have to shift. You have to shift your mind, okay? And you have to shift your heart so that you don't rely on those same survival mechanisms in environments that are supposed to be healthy. Because in all honesty, it just really results in seeking out environments that are more similar to what you were used to when you were in survival mode. I think that happens to so many of us. That is the real reason why so many of us end up in the same cycle over and over and over again. The reason why you're in a cycle is because you're still in survival mode. You haven't retired the tools that you developed when you were fighting for your life in that toxic, chaotic ass environment. You're still using them. But the only way they're effective is if you continue to be in a toxic, chaotic environment. So now you're attracted to shit like that. So now you seek out things like that. So now you lean on those tools, and those are what guide you to the people that you end up dealing with, instead of healthy mechanisms, instead of healthy tools. And oh my God, I don't know about you, but I want to retire mine. I need to retire mine. And I really came to this realization very recently that I cannot function in this way and like healthily. I can't do it personally. And I don't think anybody should really have to. And I know it is extremely difficult to unlearn the coping mechanisms and the responses that you develop from being in a toxic, chaotic situation, because your nervous system wants to hold on to that. And what happens is it follows you into every relationship after that. It follows you into every aspect of your life and how you navigate other people. And just because it is hard to do does not mean it cannot be done. Does not mean you should not try. If anything, the difficulty in letting that shit go is what lets you know you need to let it go. And for me, it followed me into love. It followed me into my romantic relationships and resulted in overpromising, overcompromising, over-apologizing, letting stuff go that I should not have let go, overlooking things and sweeping things under the rug when I shouldn't have, burying my feelings when I shouldn't have, staying with people I should not have stayed with, dealing with people and putting myself into situations that really resulted in me betraying myself. And I had to face some hard truths. Like, did any of this work for me? All of this people pleasing I've been doing, all of this compromising I've been doing, all of this giving I've been doing, what do I have to show for it? Has it worked for me? The answer is no. The answer is no. I think that's the biggest pill to swallow for people, that endlessly being understanding and forgiving and compassionate and giving and giving and giving and giving does not mean it's going to result in people staying. It does not mean it's going to result in people treating you properly and with respect. It does not mean that people are going to learn how to love you. It doesn't mean that. It does not mean that. And it's easier to be like, well, I did everything for them and they didn't give me what I wanted, so it's all on them. No, it's not. It's on you as well. It's on you as well, because at the end of the day, you have to recognize why you're doing those things. And that's what I mean when I say people pleasing can be manipulative, because at the end of the day, if you're catering to somebody's needs and somebody's desires with a motive, right? Even if that motive is something that people can sympathize with or understand, like not wanting someone to leave or not wanting someone to hurt you, then inherently and innately, you are acting in a way that is trying to induce a manipulation of the other person's actions. And baby, you gotta get over that shit. Like, gotta work through that shit, because that's not healthy. It's not healthy, and it's also not fair. It's not fair to that person. If that person doesn't want to give you love and respect, baby, it is on you to leave. It is on you to move on. Not to be like, okay, well, I'm going to people please this person to death, and then they're going to have to give me what I want. And if they don't give me what I want, then they're the problem. They're the drama. Not necessarily. Not to say that they're not the drama. They're probably people who should get the fuck on. But at the same time, we have to recognize our role in our own story. We have to recognize our role in our own story. The greatest thing that you could really do is recognize your role in your story. Sometimes you are the villain. Sometimes you are the drama. Sometimes you are choosing a situation. Sometimes you're choosing to be wherever you're at. That is your role in your story, and that is okay. If you can accept that and you can sleep good at night, then that's your business. Then that's the goal, right? But if you can't accept your role and who you are in your story, and sometimes in other people's stories, it just leads to this like inner conflict and this unsettling feeling that I think clarity and self-awareness can work through. And I want to say this too about people pleasing. People pleasers often end up with resentment because people pleasing does not result in what they want. It results in them having to bury parts of themselves, which inherently is going to lead to resentment. You end up resenting your partner, you end up resenting your friends and your parents and your other family members because you thought that if I'm good, they'll love me. If I'm good, they'll respect me or they'll understand me or they won't leave me and whatever. But when that shit doesn't happen, it's like, damn, I buried myself and I muted myself and I did everything that you wanted and you still can't give me what I want. Now I'm resenting you. Now I resent you for all of the things that I wanted you to give me, but you couldn't, you didn't. For the parts of me that I betrayed and let go of and buried and put into a closet, all for you to not give me what I thought I was going to get by giving you what you wanted. And resentment is a terrible thing. It is a terrible thing and it's a hard thing to overcome. But it's something I recognize that even though I think to myself, oh, I get over shit fast, or I don't hold on to things, I don't dwell on things, I do. And that resentment builds and may often manifest in the tough moments, in the silent cries. That's when it manifests. It doesn't manifest in the same way for everybody. Like for me, the way my resentment, when it comes to people pleasing, manifests is like a bottleneck, basically, babe. It's like I have all this shit built up. I got all this shit built up that I like to convince myself I'm not holding grudges. I like to convince myself that I'm getting over things. But the reality is, actually, I'm filing everything that you said, everything you did, everything that I saw and didn't like, every way that you made me feel. I'm filing back in my mental file cabinet. And one day that bitch is going to overflow. And that'll be the day that I'm out of here. That'll be the day that I decide, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to let this shit all off because I know it's done. Because I know I gotta go. Because I know I can't do this anymore. There's a very thin line with people pleasing and it hides itself very well because you may think, oh, I'm just selfless. Oh, I'm just a natural nurturer. Oh, I'm just kinder. I'm just more considerate. No, you may be a people pleaser. And you may have childhood trauma too. That goes directly into that leads to this anxiety management coping mechanism that is people pleasing. And you don't recognize it because people think, okay, yeah, oh, she's so selfish. She's so considerate. She does so much. But they also don't highlight when you're shrinking yourself. They also don't highlight when you're starting to disappear, right? But because you feel it. And if you feel that way, odds are you're in a dynamic where you are people pleasing, not just being considerate, not just being selfless. You are putting someone else above yourself for a specific reason and outcome that most likely will not happen the way that you want it to. And that leads me to the self-betrayal part of this. Every time you people please, every time you said yes when you really felt no, every time you buried your feelings, every time you went against your own intuition and your instincts, you are betraying yourself. You're betraying yourself. And you may want someone to come save you from a situation that you could get yourself out of if only you would stay true to yourself, if only you would have said no instead of yes. You would have spoke your feelings instead of burying them. You would have given yourself the consideration that you're getting to other people. And ultimately, people pleasing is training everyone around you too. You showed them what they should expect from you, and they're going to adjust accordingly. People are going to take from you. They're going to take from you because you showed them it was okay. You showed them that you're more than willing to put other people before yourself at your own detriment. You showed them that. And the thing about it is, if you have good people in your life, they're going to call this out and they're going to hold you accountable to not betraying yourself. But the odds are you're going to come across some people who are going to take full advantage of that. And they're not going to stop taking simply because they thought, oh, I've taken enough. I've taken enough from you. No, they're going to keep getting everything that they can out of you. And you taught them that they could do that because you decided to be a people pleaser. And yes, I say decided because it is absolutely a choice. And it is something you can stop. It is something you can end. What does healing look like for a people pleaser? It looks like getting over the fears of being unliked and unlovable. It looks like getting over the fear of losing people and missing out on life experiences and things. It looks like accepting reality and accepting your role in your story. That's what healing from people pleasing looks like to me. And for me, I want to be more okay with disappointing people. Not because I want to be a disappointment, but because I don't want to be so attached to not disappointing people that I people please. I want to be okay with putting myself first and not giving every bit of me to somebody else. I want to be okay with that. And I want to heal from the traumas that made me this way so that I can show up for myself in the best way that I can and be in healthier relationships. That's what I want. Focus on practical shifts. It's not an overnight thing, but sometimes when somebody wants something from us, we don't have to immediately jump on it. We don't have to immediately conform. You could take a breath and take a breather and think to yourself, do I really want this? Does this really align with me and my future and what I want for my life? Is this something that I can let go of? Is this something I can do and not feel resentful about later? Is this something I can do and not feel like I am betraying myself later? Ask yourself these questions and make small requests for yourself, like advocating for yourself and standing like 10 toes down, doubling down on what you need is extremely important, especially if you're the type of person that's going to put their needs to the side for somebody else. You have to start focusing on those needs, take them off of the back burner and put them in front of that person and say, okay, here's my needs too. Here's what I need. I can give to you, but here's what I need. And I'm learning that actively right now. And I'm learning too that when somebody cannot meet your needs, it is very important for you to reevaluate if they are somebody you can be with. If somebody can't give you what you need to feel secure, to have your nervous system regulated, to feel, content and not resentful, if they can't give you that, you probably should reevaluate if this is a person you can be with or have in your life in any capacity. Because the reality is that you're constantly going to be asking for those needs to be met. And if somebody cannot meet them, it'll be a constant reminder of that. And it may result in you being more resistant to bringing those needs up. It may result in you bearing those needs. And I'm reminded too that relationships that only work when you're endlessly agreeable are not safe relationships. They are conditional relationships, okay? Secure, safe relationships hold space for honesty, for rawness, for the reality that comes with conflict and not always being agreeable and not always pleasing each other. Friends, family, romantic, any of those type of relationships, they don't need you to be easy to work with. They don't need you to be extremely malleable to their desires. They need you to be real. The people who really want to be with you and build with you throughout your life, they need you to be real about your feelings and honest about your feelings and capable of evolution and growth. That is it. But if you have to be endlessly agreeable, it's conditional, baby. I'm not going to lie and act like I'm fully healed. I'm actively working through this, and it is extremely hard. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to come to the realization on. You don't have to be healed to talk about this. And even though we may know the answers, sometimes we don't always do what we know we should. I'm working on doing more of what I know I should so that I can protect myself and keep myself at peace. And I know that my people-pleasing tendencies started as a form of protection for me, but now it is something that I think is a detriment to me. You know, at some point, you don't need to do those things to protect yourself. You need to seek out better, healthier relationships and environments. I want to leave you guys with one question. Where in your life are you saying yes, where you really feel no? And what do you think or hope that will achieve for you? And I think the answer to that question will let you know where you should start and where you stand when it comes to people pleasing. If you guys made it to this point, thank you so much for being so supportive and listening to your girl. I really, really hope that this message reaches who it needs to reach. And if you resonated with this, please share, please like, please comment, give me your thoughts because I am in this with you. As always, I will see you guys in the next one.